So I would say we are probably going to end up around here.
Okay.
So I'm going to try and move my token. And it's weird because you don't really see any main roads at this point, even though there's only one main road to this point, but there's like a small path at this point and a small dirt road here, and maybe where we need to cross a main road here, but all of a sudden we are by the water, and I notice two youngsters, probably no older than about 11, just talking to each other. They're both in reasonably scruffy looking clothing, and one of them kind of immediately looks at me, almost like eyeing me up a little bit, like looking me up and down like a mark, and then sort of going, "Oh, it's you. What do you want?" So Silvo then explains that we're looking for someone, and we're hoping that you and your boys would be able to help us out.
And so one of them says, and I have to mention something about the look of the town, but I'll come back to it. It's like, all right, what then? How do you want us to help you out?
I need your eyes. Mainly, I need you and your boys to look out for Scaran Wavechaser. I need to know where he is. I need to know when he's going to be alone. This isn't wet work. I mean more, I want to have a conversation with him, and I don't want to get piled on by the city guard.
And these are, when you said boys, these are not actually boys, right? They're not age of boys. They're just sort of like in general.
I'd say they're the orphan population of Saltmarsh.
Okay.
So they are living a bit rough. They're probably between the age of 11 and 14. So they're young. So they're not like 6.
Right?
Like
no, I got you. So one of them says, "All right, who's gonna pay us then, Silvo? You? I heard a rumor that you're not gonna get paid as well anymore. That's what some say." Yeah. Another one says, "That's what I heard too. I heard that maybe the Snake Sisters are looking after you." And someone, elbows him. "Don't call them the Snake Sisters. They hate that."
All right, Digit. So I want to know who you heard that off of. Who's been flapping their gums about me recently?
And he says, "Just around. Kids talking,
Yeah?
You've been gone for a while, and at least a couple of days, and I heard someone say that they did for you already. I guess it was wrong, though. But
yeah, well, I've just been doing a bit of a job for them, that's all. You know what I'm like. I like to keep my head down every now and then.
You better keep your head down carefully then, or they might jump up and slit your throat from below the ground."
Yeah, well, you know me, Digits. You got to catch me first, and with that, I'll hand him 2 silver pieces.
And Digits looks at it and sort of does the classic, to bite, just double check in and looks at it and says, all right. That's talking high language, I think. All right. You want us to find Scaran. What do you want us to do when we get him?
I want you to meet me at the back alley behind the snapping line at about sundown today. And I want you to tell me exactly what his movements are. I want to know when he's alone, more specifically. I want to know when his personal guard isn't with him. And I want to know what his daily movements are. You tell me that, there's this for you. And I hold out a little bag, and it's jingling with coins.
And he nods and he says, "All right, we'll do what we can, Silvo. But be careful. There's definitely people who have been looking to see what is going on with that house. And some people are going to want to talk to you. So keep your head down."
All right, good. You too.
And the kids zip out. And one of the things you noticed that I forgot to mention to everybody else, and everyone was following you to this alley, right? I believe. Right? Sorry, Mike, you're muted, Mike.
Sorry, I was muted.
Yeah.
Yes, we're all around the same area as long as everyone agrees.
Okay. So
the
thing,
at a distance, so we're not like going to intimidate these kids. But
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You think of like standing all there. So,
yeah.
I wanted to note that as you are coming into the town, there's something odd about the way the town looks, and then you realize what it is that it's much more colorful, excuse me, than normal. There are these flowers, these strange, like exotic-looking flowers that are decorating the town, like on railings and on doorways, like in wreaths and stuff like that, just all over the place, these exotic, brightly colored flowers.
Can I have a look at the flowers to see if I recognize them or know what they are?
Sure. You can look at them. Go ahead and make a nature check for me, please.
19.
19. And so we consult the living Greyhawk gazetteer. Yeah, I would say that you have encountered these before, Brian, and or at least you've seen examples of them, but not from anywhere near here. These flowers, from what you remember, actually grow much farther to the north, basically. And so they basically are much more up, growing in areas around like Pomarsh and the Brass Hills and the Brightlands, basically up out of the Azure Sea and into the Woolly Bay and the Sea of Girnet, which is a good distance from here. So these have been imported a good distance.
Do I know if they've got any particular properties or anything?
You think just decorative. It's possible that there are like herbal remedies that people talk about and stuff, but there's no way to know for sure if those are, reasonable herbal remedies.
I'm going to turn back to the others and say, are they trying to win some kind of town beauty contest? These flowers aren't indigenous to here. They come from miles away to the north. Who would import flowers?
I look at Brian and say,
Beautiful.
They are pretty beautiful. Can confirm.
I'm gonna guess this is one of Wavechaser's. Prime Water's rituals that they were talking about.
Maybe.
Is that he gives out like exotic flowers and fruits and stuff like that to people to win favor? I don't know. Morthwyl, you probably know more about this than I do. Have you ever done this before?
I've seen these flowers around now and again, but I'm usually too busy working to actually pay much attention to them. It gets served in the taverns at the edge of town quicker, though. Everyone's busy.
Yeah. Well, I think we probably want to avoid main roads as much as possible right now, just in case there's any parades or processions or anything like that.
If he sees us with Ned, he might not be too best pleased.
So we've got probably until that sundown just to lay low. I'd probably recommend going somewhere near the empty net. That's where we're going to get some information later on. We can probably go...
Snapping line, you mean, Mike? Or the empty net?
Sorry, snapping line.
Okay.
Yeah, snapping
I
line.
want to confirm.
Yep, sorry. Can confirm snapping line, the one owned by Hannah, or the one that Hannah works in.
Yeah.
Empty net's definitely not happy with me.
I was going to say, they hang out the empty net where you can get thrown out on your head. And
yeah, they hang out the internet where Silvo owes lots of very bad people lots of money. Yeah, snapping line. If we stay around that area, then we should be all right. There's a couple of rooms we can probably rent nearby. There's like an abandoned building that I sometimes stay in when the weather gets real rough. So there's a couple of shop owners near there that have like empty back rooms that we can probably use. So come sundown, we'll get some more information about Wavechaser.
I agree. I'm going to turn to everyone and say I would be more comfortable if the fewer people that see us enter the town, the better.
All right, cool. Well, with that, I'm going to try and lead you towards the snapping line. Arv, could you remind me where the snapping line is?
snapping line is right here. And I will ping that.
Excellent, thank you.
Right on this building.
So, as we're walking through, there's a couple of spots where, unless anything interrupts us, which obviously Arv can just chime in with this. There's a couple of alleyways that we go down where we get some reasonably odd looks. There's a moment where I grab like what looks like a blanket or a carpet, a thin carpet off of a washing line outside someone's building, and just cover Ned's head with it, like a headscarf, to try and like disguise his appearance. And like, I put my arm around him like he's an old friend, that sort of thing, like we're just leading through, like we're just walking from one tavern to the next. There's a couple of moments where you see Silvo squeeze through some very thin alleyways and some very tight corners with incredible ease, and it's a bit difficult for some of you to do that as well, but you know he's done this a fair few times. Either through necessity or practice. Like he's either been chased through these alleyways or he's just practiced squeezing into these tight spaces. But eventually we come out near the back of the snapping line, and it's weird because whilst you've seen some of these flowers and stuff in the distance, we haven't really crossed. You don't really feel like we've crossed a lot of main streets, but we've definitely crossed main streets. So it kind of feels like there's definitely a hidden network of alleyways around Saltmarsh that a certain number of people know, and Silvo just happens to know a couple of them. So yeah, he's led us to the rear of the snapping line.
As you come to the rear of the snapping line, by the way, you see something odd, which is, again, you've seen, even going on the back alleys, you've seen some flowers and stuff like that, here and there. But you've also noticed every so often people walking by with something that they seem to be eating. And as you sort of get a chance to look more closely, you can see that a bunch of people seem to be walking around with this strange-looking fruit, several kinds of fruit, that are definitely not native to the region either. And everyone seems to be in a pretty good mood who's eating it, walking along, and every so often they chat with each other and they're sort of talking about this, that, or the other, or they're running from one place to another. But there's a lot of this fruit around, again, this kind of exotic fruit that people are eating as well.
Do I recognize the fruit?
You'd have to get closer to be able to see it, Brian. You just kind of catch, like every so often, like an orange or yellow tinge in color. And it definitely looks juicy because every time they bite into it, there's like water that sprays out or whatever. So there's that. But you don't know the specific unless you had a chance to go up and actually talk to them, which I assume you've been trying to avoid doing that. But that's the idea.
Keeping secret, keeping safe.
Excuse me, what is that fruit? I must know.
Yeah.
What's my name?
Me,
I'm a pirate, and I have...
I'm Brine the Bloodthirsty. I'd like to know. This is my favorite stall in Saltmarsh.
This is my favorite store in Saltmarsh.
Do you not know who I am?
It's funny.
You're the one who's been introducing yourself as Brine the Bloodthirsty for the past 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then you get
Cool.
to the back of this thing, yes.
Yes. So there's a subtle tap at the rear door of the snapping line.
And after a moment, you see someone, see the door open slightly, and someone looks out. Of course, it's during the day, so taverns are not particularly busy at this time, right? So someone kind of looks out, and you can see that it's Hannah. And she says, "Oh, what you doing?"
I immediately give her a sly smile and a wink and go, "Spare room," and pass her a gold piece.
Silvo, there's ways to do this, You don't have to come to the back door. Are you in trouble? What happened? What is it?
Yes.
Why is that man on a rope? And she just starts like looking at all these things. What is going on? Why are you? What did you do? What did you do, Silvo? Silvo, what did you do?
We let the kenku keep him.
I mean, you are always right in this. I'm always in trouble, Hannah. You know that I'm at least quick enough to get myself out of it, but right now, just need to wait until sundown, just until things blow over very slightly, and then we're out of your hair. However, I need to level a few things with my friends here, so if you've got a spare room, that'd be fantastic, because I know your doors have locks on them. If not, then, I mean, we could always take our chance in the old tailors, and I motion over to an abandoned building behind the snapping line. But the guards have taken to understanding that me and some of the orphan boys have started to stay there, so it's kind of really in your hands to say yes or no with this.
And so she kind of like looks at you and...
Come on, you
and
wouldn't
then
turf me out, would you, after all we've been through?
And then so she steps back, and there's a resounding slam in your face for a minute, and the echo kind of like echoes down the street, And then just as you're like, oh, then the door opens up all the way. And you don't even see her. You just hear from behind the door, come on then, make it quick.
Right, yes, you heard the lady. This way, come on, this way. And I'll head them towards where I believe one of the spare rooms might be. I'll ask as well which room is spare.
Okay. And so as you get in, there's no response until she closes the door. And then she says, the only place that I've got spare for you right now is this way. And she walks and then walks around behind the bar, back into the room behind the bar. And then as you follow her in there, down below, there is a set of stairs that leads down to what is essentially a wine cellar. A wine cellar, which is maybe an overdramatic description of a slightly larger than you kept Ned in closet with some barrels of some drink, which you are pretty confident is beer. And she brings you down there. And once you're down there, she says, oh, look, I don't know what you've been doing with yourselves or what trouble you've gotten you're in. All four of you, well, three of you anyway, have fallen in with him, like jerking her head at Silvo, and that's always a mistake. But as long as you're here, well, and she kind of looks at Ned, who just sort of glares back at her, and she says, I don't hold with holding on to criminals. And if that's what this person is, you got to hurry up and be done with whatever you're going to do. And if you're not out of here by the evening, well, I'll throw you out myself. And she turns around and she kind of storms up the stairs and then stops at the last minute. And she says, and tell me if you want any food. And slams the door behind her.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah, I'm just like, she's a good one. She is good people. I mean, she hates my guts sometimes, but she is very good people. She puts up with a lot of my stuff.
I meant the food, but also that.
Yeah, Brian's stomach's grumbling a little bit. There was nothing to eat at the church, or the temple, should I say.
I will go up the stairs and I will ask Hannah, if you've got any of the what was the food called? Not clam chowder. It was like...
All I can remember is the lobster wine.
Oh, God.
Lobster wine. Yeah, lobster wine.
Yeah, the lobster wine. I don't remember what I called the clam chowder.
I think that was lobster wine. It was like thick, like almost.
It was more lobster than wine. I think was the point.
Yes.
So as in that case, if we can do a little bit of a retcon, as Hannah's going up the stairs, and she goes, and let me know if you want any food. I was like, well, some food would be great.
Which you say just before the door. Some food would be great. Slam, type
that would
of thing.
be lovely.
And so she's
probably got some bread.
She brings you a bowl, a fairly large bowl with several small bowls that you can dish out into of what is called Sahuagin stew. Now, Sahuagin is a particular kind of creature, and it's never clear as if this creature is actually what makes up the stew, but instead it just tastes like kind of a fish stew. And there's different things in it, including some vegetables and stuff like that. And for all of Hannah's grumbling and kind of like, pushing things in and sort of growling about, don't make much noise and all this stuff, the food actually is pretty good. The soup is hot. And you're able to eat it. Ned just sort of sits there sullenly. Are you going to give Ned any food, or are you just going to continue to...
Yeah, I'm going to give Ned some food.
All right, so he eats some of the soup.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, sullenly in the same way. And as you're sort of, eating and just kind of talking to each other, at one point Ned says, so, how long you planning to keep me dragging me from room to room and place to place?
I think the question you need to ask yourself is, how long are we going to keep you alive?
If I was really worried about that, I would be... And he sort of nods sort of slowly with a slow smile. I would have assumed you would have eliminated me a long time ago. You know that I can bring you what you need, and that is to bring down Gellin. Gellin. I have to pronounce the name right first. Gellin. I can bring the Gellin down, and if I'm going to bring him down, that means you need me. That's not going to look good on the trial. Yeah, exactly. He says, if you're going to bring Gellin down, you're going to need me. So... I'm not that worried about staying alive. I am worried about you bringing me to him before we all die of natural causes, though. What's this delay all about?
We've had to get a bit, and he spits the word again, political.
Everything in Saltmarsh is politics, and you ought to know that pretty well, having been around here a long time yourself. So, the longer you wait, the more rumors can build. I would speed things up if I were you, but what do I know? I'm just trying to stay alive. And he kind of shoots a glance in your direction, Brine.
When he's finished his chowder, I'm going to put his gag back in.
You'd have to be a fool to sail full speed towards rocks. You agree completely with everything I'm saying. That's nice to hear.
Okay. Are you doing anything else during this time, or are you just sort of allowing the...
I think we need to formulate some kind of plan rather
Right.
than just find out where Scaran Wavechaser is.
Was he coming to us?
Well, no. So what's happening is the urchins of the city are going to find out information about him to find out on his daily travel when he is most vulnerable, as in when he is alone. So when we can potentially have a conversation with him that won't be interrupted by other council members, townsfolk, where he won't have plausible deniability of, oh, there's vagrants near me, get them away from me. Where if he were to admit anything, it could be in a reasonably safe environment. But where that is, we have no idea, because he's a council member and he probably moves around town a little bit, especially at the moment. So just trying to figure out when is the best time to approach him.
Yeah, we need to have a private meeting with Scaran.
It doesn't need to be long. Yeah, it just needs to be long enough to say, well, dirtbag, we know what you're up to. Drag on Ned, and then.
But we need to establish whether Scaran is involved in this. He sent us there, but did he send us there with good intentions to find out what was happening? Why did he suddenly want to send us to the supposedly haunted house?
Well, he said Scaran was working for somebody else, and I wanted to say Anders Solmar.
Right.
Though I can't.
Anders Solmar, is the guy.
Anders Solmar, who's on the council. Down. That's right.
Yes,
yeah.
Who is also on the council. So it could be a case of, and obviously Silvo was saying this, it could be a case of Anders Solmar is completely unaware of Gellin Prime Water's.
No, two different people. Hold on. Scaran Wavechaser is the butler who works for Anders Solmar and is the one who sent you. But Gellin Prime Weaver, you may already know this, Mike, but I just wanted to confirm we weren't getting confused about who was who.
Okay, cool.
So, because Gellin Prime Weaver is the one that Ned has fingered as being the guy who, hired him to do all this stuff. He didn't say anything about Scaran.
Prime Weaver.
Yeah.
Prime Water.
Yeah. Prime Water. You're right. It is Prime Water.
Oh, right. Okay.
So Gellin Prime Water, but again, different from Scaran Wavechaser.
Yep.
Right? Two different people. Okay, just wanted to confirm.
So Wavechaser is the butler of Solmar.
Right. And the one who hired you.
And yes, but Solmar is a council member.
Right.
And Prime Water is a council member.
Also a council member, right.
So what I'm thinking is those two council members are either unaware of each other's activities. I'm saying this to the party. Unaware of each other's activities, or they're in collusion. So we need to find out if either Scaran Wavechaser, who works for Anders Solmar, so Scaran Wavechaser and Anders Solmar are in cahoots with Gellin Prime Water, and we essentially have an entire council team out to assassinate us, or Scaran Wavechaser is also working for Gellin Prime Water, or everybody's unaware of everybody, and actually this is a massive coincidence.
I mean, there's another option you might be overlooking.
Go for it.
What if Solmar had an inkling the Prime Water's up to something but nothing concrete and needed some deniability to acquire evidence?
Possibly, yeah.
Couldn't act directly himself, like.
Yeah.
Politics.
Not a fan. Not a fan.
I thought I'd left that behind at the guild.
Just I was also confused about the name, but we're trying to get in contact with the guy who gave us the assignment, right?
No.
Yeah, whose name is
Yes.
Scaran Wavechaser. He's the servant of the council member.
Right. So Silvo, when you
Yeah.
sent the kids out, were you sending the kids to look for prime water, Gellin prime
Yes.
water? Okay.
No.
That's
No.
different
No.
from Scaran, because
Oh,
Gellin prime water.
I
This is why I keep saying it's two
see.
different people.
Yeah.
Scaran Wavechaser hired you. Gellin prime
Yes.
water is the guy that Ned claims hired him to kill you. So I wanted to know
Right,
if you
okay.
wanted the urchins to find Gellin,
So
or
we
to
were
just
under the impression
I
that
thought we wanted to take Ned to at least Seren Wavechaser, if not Solmar himself.
Wavechaser.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
what I was-
exactly.
I
We
was
want to
doing-
find it.
That's absolutely fine then. I got the wrong end of the stick then.
Okay,
It's
I
not a
just wanna
case
make
if I
sure.
got it's not a case if I misunderstood names, because I've got like the names and stuff on the Trello board in front of me, but I thought we were going after Prime Water at this point. If we're not, and we're actually going to try and find Scaran Wavechaser, who hired us to introduce him to Ned, then
Yes.
that's absolutely fine. That's what we'll do.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
that's
we
what
are
I've sent
going
the
after
urchins out
Prime
to do.
Water, but more roundabout, less direct.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
we
that's
want to
absolutely-
find out how many people are throwing us under the bus at the moment.
Yeah.
Is it?
We've got this guy who
Isn't-
says this. What did you know when you sent us up there?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot more
Exactly.
sense. Yeah.
We don't want to be like a henchman delivery service, so we're not gonna get him back to his,
Exactly.
to his guy.
Okay. Cool. That
Okay.
makes a lot more
So do you
sense.
still want the urchins searching for Scaran then, your
Yes.
employer? Okay.
Wavechaser, the employer.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So then there's a knock on the door. Probably maybe a couple of hours later, after you've all talked a little bit about some of this, and you hear this on the outside, and then the door to the wine cellar opens, and peering down the little flight of stairs at the top of the door, you can see the face of Digits looking down at you, Silvo, and he says, "Oi, if you want to see Scaran, and just by himself, now's the time. You got to come with me, though. He's not going to be without guards for much longer."
I turn to the others. Right, get your things. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm always in favor of going, so I go.
Yep. I immediately there's a moment where I'm like, any spare grabbable food, like a bit of bread or something, I'll just like tuck it in my pocket for later, and
Okay.
just immediately grab Ned and go.
Okay. So the rest of you, okay, so that's the deal with that. The rest of you are going also? Like, are you able to, and I assume bringing your pet, by which I mean Ned,
Pet.
along the line?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our pet
See,
henchman.
this is where we could have done with the bag of holding to put Ned in the bag of holding.
Yes, no need for air, just like
That's
stuff
fine.
like this
He'll
stuff
be,
there.
he'll be
Be
fine.
more stealthy that way.
Basically, he will definitely come out of the bag of holding eventually. We will just not know when.
Eventually at some point. Okay. So the boy leads you out of the snapping line. And then let me make sure I have the right where we're actually going. I think that's right. Hold on a second. Can confirm in a minute. Yes. The thing, the stuff. Yes. Okay. Good. The boy brings you around. I'm going to actually draw it. Brings you out this way. And then is going to bring you up this way. And down this way. To that dock. And as he goes, I'm doing it much more. I'm doing it much more directly than he does. Like you did, Silvo, he kind of winds you through alleyways a little bit and kind of stays off the main roads. Of course, it's later now. You can see now a lot of strange, like it looks like maybe seeds on the ground, and you're guessing it's seeds from this whatever the hell this weird fruit is that everyone has been eating from. So you can see some of that as you go. But he kind of moves you around and through and all these other places. And he eventually brings you over to this spot. And actually, the spot is right near something here, which Morthwyl and Silvo would both know to be the Oland House, which is a big, sprawling house that's been in the family for generations. There's a lot of money to be found there, and every generation of the family has added on to the building, so it's just gotten like larger and larger with a bigger and bigger footprint. And it is rumored that there is inside this place multiple like maze-like tunnels and things like that, and of course treasures of all different kinds that you can find within. And so the boy brings you back there to this dock. And then you can see, just on the edge of the dock, he leads you out to about maybe 1/3 of the way through. And then he points over, and you can see, actually, on the other side of the dock. So there's one dock here. So basically over here on that promontory, I'll do it again right there. On the promontory right there, you can see an island which is best known for two very large stones known as rune stones that are found on this edge of the island. But what you see actually is Scaran there. And Scaran is there, and you can see that he looks at you and then waves in your direction and points. And you can see on the edge of the dock there is an empty boat, decent size, large enough for 5 people. And Digits turns back to you. So, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, I was going to say,
I was just going to thank Digits and toss him the bag of coins in which there is 10 silver pieces.
And he
says,
says,
"You look after the boys, all right? You make sure that goes around. You make sure you guys get a hot meal for a few days."
"I will, Silvo." And he says, "Thank you, and well, just be careful when you get over there." He didn't say what he was... Just be careful. And he kind of takes the bag, and he heads off, and Scaran just stands waiting on the island there.
Well, I have a feeling that I just paid for somebody to come and find me rather than me go and find them, but that's probably not the first time that's happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I walk towards the boat and inspect it. And if it's okay, I jump in.
Make an investigation check for me, please.
Oh, I didn't think that would happen.
You said inspect it.
I just wanted to boat.
Perfectly
more.
safe.
This boat is
Perfectly
this is a wonderful
safe.
boat. I like it.
It's a great boat.
Ace, but this is the
Top-
best boat
top
you've ever
level
seen in your
boat.
life. Yeah, it's the best boat.
So yeah, so I jump inside and wave to the others to follow and say,
The ship is ours! Morthwyl walks over and casts a praising eye over it as he climbs in as well. It's just more professionalism more than anything.
Same for you. Do an investigation check for me, please.
Seems pretty good.
Seems pretty good, yeah, from what you can tell.
I've been in better.
Yeah, it's not dwarven made, But
I know.
All right,
I mean, they can
Silvo
make
and
boats out
Brine.
of stone.
Yeah, no, I'm getting the boat. I don't care what the boat looks like as long as it doesn't have a hole in it.
Brine, what about you?
And you're taking Ned in the boat as well.
Oh yes, a space of 5.
I'm going to, before I get visible, as in before Scaran can see me, I am going to say to the others, I'll meet you there. And then I'm going to slip into the water.
Okay. So, interesting. So
mysterious.
you make, so you then row out basically / swim, and if you head directly to here, this slopes down, so you can actually basically pull up the boat on the side of the stone. And when it gets really rainy and windy, these sides can get pretty slick, but today it's not like that. So you're actually able to just pull it up, and then you're able to carefully make your way up the slope to where Scaran is waiting. Brine, where are you? Are you swimming like to here? Like where are you swimming?
Yeah,
to?
I'm staying underwater, so they can't see me approaching. I can breathe underwater, and my speed underwater is the same as on land. So still 30 feet.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to land over here, and then climb up, essentially behind him.
Okay.
I love the idea that Brian is just like, you guys hit the boat. I'm going to take a walk.
I'd like you to make a stealth check for me, please, Brian, as you get up there. Everyone else can just get out of the boat normally, obviously.
15.
Okay. Let me... Okay. All right, so you all, get out of the boat and walk up to him with Ned sort of trailing behind you. And when you get up to the top of it, you can see Scaran is there with his arms folded and waiting for you. And when he sees Ned on the end of the rope, he sort of tilts his head a little bit with his sort of curious expression. And then he says, "Welcome, all of you. Am I to understand that you've replaced, I suppose, your pirate with this, whatever he is?"
Silvo just looks at him and goes, "We're a little too exposed by the shore on the other side, so should we go maybe into the tree line?
Or perhaps to
have
the
this
rune
sensitive
stones.
conversation?
No one
Or
on
to
that
the rune
side.
stones? Yeah.
And if you wish, so he kind of turns and heads off. All of you can follow, and Brine, you can kind of trace a course, around the woods to stay away from him, but still follow him, assuming that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so when he brings you back to the other side, so these are, and neither Brine nor Waves have ever seen these. There are two enormous rune stones on this island, and the rumor is that in ages past there was a siren chained to the stones here and sacrificed by an evil human tribe as an offering to the sea. And the fishing in the region has flourished since that time. But there is a song, a very light, echoing over and right around the stones. So you can it's not very loud, but when you're near the stones, you can hear them. So this unearthly sound is there as, he brings you over, and there are several benches inside the stones, just sitting near the stones. And so he sits down and he says, "Very well. I assume you have some information for me, but I'm still curious to know what this thing is." And he kind of looks at, Ned.
I just poke Ned, and I say, "Go on then. Tell me what you told us." I take his gag off.
And he says, "What are you doing taking me to other people who don't matter?" And Scaran sort of raises an eyebrow and is sort of "You don't think I matter, my good man?" And he says, "I ain't your man. I'm here for one reason, and it's to tell what I know about Gellin Primewater." And Scaran sort of leans back a little bit. "Really? What exactly do you know about Gellin Primewater, esteemed member of the council?" And Ned sort of, "I know enough to know that he ain't esteemed or anything. He's trying to have you on, he is. The entire group. He set me to kill these people. And when they found me, well, I decided that it was better to stay alive and do what I could to remain useful. So, I'm ready to give the evidence needed to bring Primewater down. He set me up, and I'm going to say that he pays for it." And Scaran sort of looks at him, and then his gaze kind of flickers up to the three of you. And he says, "And do you trust this? What's your name?" Ned Shakeshaft. Yes. Do you trust this individual? He says, looking at the three of you.
I would trust him enough to... I trust that he would know what happens if he's lying to us.
And so he nods and he says, so what happened? Where's Brine? What did you find at the house?
Well, the house was a difficult thing to traverse, and it wasn't without its dangers. And Silvo kind of not motions, but he kind of looks down at the still dried blood splattered down his coat and down his vest. But we found a wizard of some power called Sanballat, and as I say that, I look directly at Mr. Wavechaser to see if he notices it.
And make an insight check for me, please.
Yes, I will do that as soon as I'm not catted. There we go. Bear with me a second. Insight. There we go. That would be an 8.
Yeah, it seems like he doesn't seem to have any reaction to that particular name. Is just sort of like studying all of you intently, basically.
We believe that this wizard Sambalet was looking for an artifact in the old alchemist's house, also known as the Haunted House, and he may or may not have working or currently be working for Galen Primewater. But he may have gone rogue, because this one here, kind of thumbs over to Ned, was set up to ambush us, but was pretty much abandoned. So that's why he's now with us in his current state.
It's not so much that he might be looking for this artifact of power. He is. He told us himself. He even tried to coerce us into looking for it for him by aid of a powerful poison, which we've since learned was magical in nature, and such not commonly acquirable to the layman.
And he sort of nods slowly, and he says, "This is troubling, though. There have been rumors of Galen Primewater's activities for a long time, but the idea that he would be involved in this... You've seen these flowers all over town, the fruit people are eating?" It's kind of like a question, like, have you seen
I
it?
nod.
Yes, yeah.
And he says,
yes.
all part of a festival, most of it sponsored by Galen Primewater. The townsfolk at the moment are very impressed with his generosity. But if what you say is true, then maybe all of this is distraction. Keep the town focused on this while he does his smuggling up to the north. And he sighs and says, I don't know then. I don't know what it is that we can expect. And he says, this Sanballat, he was searching for an artifact, you say, but he has some kind of power, some kind of ability to do this. Who is he? Just an employee of Primewater's?
He's a wizard of some sort.
And
When you spoke to him the most, Silvo.
He wanted to expand his smuggling operation further than the house that he was currently in.
I see. So there is this smuggling operation. Do we know to whom? Is there a ship that they talked about, or a group?
Not a ship. We did find some tide charts and documents, but nothing that links to anyone in particular.
And maybe a way of signaling said ship, if there is a ship nearby. But we're not certain on that yet.
And he nods and he says, interesting. Normally I would say this is something that should be brought before the council. But perhaps, if this is partially... We cannot accuse someone without proof. But if it turns out that Primewater is involved, then going to the council would be the last thing that we want. And he kind of leans in and he says, suppose, hypothetically, that you signaled this ship.
And what would you have us do once we've signaled it?
You found out so far the information you need for the smuggling operation. Now the question is, can we expose the real force behind it? Presumably, on that ship, they would have all the information that would be needed. They would have manifests, shipping cargo lists, all sorts of things that would implicate Prime Water. And if we have that evidence and can bring it before the council, we can get Prime Water removed, perhaps even jailed. And we would strike a serious blow against people trying to undercut this town. And he looks over and he says, not, of course, that I could think anything less of the testimony of an accomplice. And he kind of looks angrily at Ned. But I don't know if the council will believe someone who's obviously trying to save his own skin. And Shakeshaft, we all try to save our own skin. Some of us are more honest than others about it. And Scaran looks back at you and raises an eyebrow and says, I would, of course, do what I could to help outfit you, but this would need to be somewhat quiet, especially since none of this can come back to my master. If it comes out that Anders is somehow bankrolling an expedition to undergut Prime Water, you realize how that would look, and all of a sudden all of the good work that we've done would be lost. So maybe not the council. Maybe the ship?
Well, we thought discretion was the best choice, considering we had similar doubts about our ability to tie anything concrete to, to Prime Water.
So Scaran pulls out a bag, and it jingles pleasingly. Not with dice, with coins. Like, that's what actually would be, not dice. And he tosses it over. He looks meaningfully at all of you and then looks extra meaningfully at Silvo and then tosses the bag to you, Morthwyl. And he says, no offense, wrong voice, sorry. No offense, Silvo, but I have a suspicion that others whom you've worked for in the past might be intrigued by this level of support. I hope, however, that 200 gold will be enough to outfit all of you for this endeavor.
That seems fair.
He says, so, if you head back across town and head to Winston's store, I'll mark it. He says, I'll mark it on your map. I'll show you where you can find it in town. Winston knows a great deal about methods of infiltration, and most specifically, his roots are not on the same roots as everyone else. So, when I send you to him, he won't promptly tell everyone else what he's seen. That means that you'll be able to acquire what's needed without attracting too much attention. As for this one, and he kind of looks at Ned, I know just the place to put him in the meantime. And when they come back, if you've been very, very good, perhaps we'll be able to pull you out of your little holding area and have you testify in front of the council. If, on the other hand, you're not good, then by the time they get back, they won't find any of you because there'll be nothing left to find. And Ned sort of gives a kind of a cruel, sly grin and says nothing. And Scaran says, it's up to all of you. But there's more where that, he says, nodding at the bag, came from. And perhaps with a little bit of outfitting, you might be able to take down a smuggling operation and elevate yourselves in Saltmarsh. What do you say?
Well, I've definitely got a hankering to pay back to the smuggling ring as they dealt unto us.
Yeah, I'd like to, at some point, have another conversation with Sambalat.
Brian, waves.
I agree.
I'm still hiding.
Oh, right, you're not
Yes,
there.
yeah.
that's true.
That's right.
Yes.
So I forgot about that. I'm sorry. So
Hiding too
that
good,
last
forgot.
thing is where he says, one last point. where exactly is Brine? I would have hoped that she would be part of this endeavor also.
I at this point I walk out of the wiz. I was just checking the perimeter to make sure that we weren't being followed.
And he's, of course. I don't suppose you heard any of the offer that I made to the other three?
I did hear, just on my approach.
So, what say you then, Brine?
If the others agree, I agree.
And he nods slowly and he says, very well. You can take the boat back yourself. I have a second one on the other end of the island, and I'll bring over your charge here to the prison myself. You've already done a wonderful job of keeping quiet, but please continue to do that. There are movements afoot, and people who are exploring and gathering information about this town, not just you. We want to make sure that you are free to maneuver. When you get to Winston's, tell him that I sent you. And most of all, keep safe. There are many more in Saltmarsh than just myself and my master, and not all of them agree on the best way forward. And
obviously,
yeah.
Sorry,
no, go ahead.
no, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was trying to wait till you finished.
And he says, he was going to say that, and then I was going to say, you hear the haunting song of the sirens passing through and in the air. And that was where I was going to bring the session to a close. So if there's something you wanted to say first, Brine, you can do that.
I just wanted to, because I didn't want to interrupt at the time, but where I was listening in, do I believe what he was saying?
I would like you to make an insight check for me, please. I'm not going to make a disadvantage. Yeah, just an insight check is fine.
19.
Can I also
Which is a nat 20.
Sure you can,
minus
Waves.
1.
Sure you can, Waves. So the impression that you get is very similar to when you were first hired, which is that, wow, okay, and Waves, the impression that you get is also very similar to the impression when you were first hired, which is, as far as it goes, it sounds like Scaran is being straight with you, and for certain, the gold is legit. I mean, like, it's not fake gold, it's real. There may be more that he's not telling you. There may be more information that he's not giving you. But he doesn't seem to be lying about the idea of maybe how to bring the smugglers out, basically, the whole signaling the ship business and all that. It sounds like that's something which he genuinely thinks would be helpful to, his cause, whatever that is, like all the town's cause, maybe theoretically. But he's probably not giving you all the details from what you can get. And maybe, maybe that's understandable, but yeah. So I would say that's what both of you pick up. And that, chat, is where we are going to pick up a close to what was a really fun session, and it kind of moved in different directions. I wasn't sure at first where we were going to go because a lot of it relied on different aspects of people knowing parts of the town. But it sets up beautifully. Again, I love the political intrigue of this adventure, and so it sets up beautifully I actually thought they were going to just go directly to the council, but they kind of circumvented that, and they were like, nope, we're just going to go talk to Scaran directly. And I'm like, then we're going to roll with the punches. I think that's cool. And so the party has now moved things in a particular direction, and now we're going to see what happens when they chat up Winston here, and then when they go off to, I guess, summon a smuggler ship. It's going to be fun to see how that happens.